Hello there, my name is Vicki Sanders with VMS Family Counseling Services Leadership Exploration and Development Program. This is the next in our series of short videos that talks to you about different topics that might be important to you right now as you telecommute and work from home. Today I'm going to be talking just in general about professionalism, and then I will tack on a little bit at the end that talks about professionalism now that we're working from home. So I want to say first that the things that I'm about to say are all things that you know. They're all things that to you probably are common sense or make sense to you, but for many of you, you are actually working with people who've never had a professional job before. They obviously have been in school and they've done different things, but they may not have had the same level of exposure to professional expectations as you have had. And so this might be actually something that we need to work with our staff on. The first thing is that we want to make sure that people are dressing for the job that they have and the job that they want, and they're also dressing in a way that makes them be treated the way that they want to be treated. And so what I mean is, if we are wearing nice professional clothing versus looking very sloppy and wrinkly, we're going to be treated differently both by our colleagues as well as by families that we work with. When we dress professionally, people feel as though we want to be there. It is as though we are prepared to be there, and it is as though we are competent at our job. So that may be something that you have to start talking with your team about. There is a difference between business casual, and casual, and so you might just need to talk with your staff about what that looks like. Business casual, for example, does not mean anything except for jeans. So it's not as though we're going to say to someone, you can wear whatever you would like as long as they're not jeans, because sweatpants are not appropriate, right? So that just may be something you need to have a conversation with your staff about. The second thing is to be responsive and to be on time. So by being responsive, I mean if someone calls you, call them back. If someone emails you, email them back. You guys are very busy and your staff are extremely busy, and so it's very easy to fall into a trap of, I'll call them back later. But the problem is then we don't call them back. And then when someone needs something from us, they actually won't go to me anymore. Now they're going to go to my supervisor because they say, I've emailed Vicki 77 times and she's not responsive. And so we want to make sure that our people that we're working with know we're going to be responsive, and they also know we're going to be on time. If for some reason I'm not going to be on time, whether it's to a Skype meeting or to an in-person meeting, I'm going to let somebody know. Because when I am late to something and I don't let someone know, what I'm telling them, what I'm communicating to them is that I think my time is more important than their time. And we don't want to communicate that to people because all of our times are important. No one person's time is more valuable or important than anyone else's. So we want to make sure that people are showing up on time and prepared to go. The third thing is to pay attention to what's happening around you. And by that I mean, try to be present where you are. We all need to be doing things like checking phones and checking emails during meetings sometimes. If you can step away to do that, that would be really good. It's actually very distracting to speakers to see people on their phones. Again, it often triggers people to feel as though you think whatever's happening for you is more important than what's happening in this meeting. That might be true. In your case, you might be dealing with an emergency, and the meeting that you're in isn't about an emergency, but that's when you need to communicate that with other people. The next thing is to be respectful and use appropriate language. We want to make sure that when we are in a work setting, we are behaving that way, and we are utilizing the right language. And I mean avoiding things like slang terms, avoiding things like foul language. Although it might not be offensive to us, it might be offensive to someone else. And also avoiding things like office gossip and creating problems. We want to have respectful conversations with those around us. The fifth is being willing to share information about yourself and hear information from other people, but don't go overboard. So you want for people to feel as though they can connect to you, and often that means sharing some personal information. But you want to make sure, one, that you aren't leaving yourself vulnerable to them using that information against you, or two, that it becomes all about you and they're taking care of you. Even many of the children and families that your staff work with really benefit from knowing little things about the people they work with. The social workers and the supervisors, therapists, things like that. But we want to make sure that it's appropriate information. The final thing is to turn in your best work. If you are not doing your best, if you're just trying to get something finished and off of your desk, you're not going to feel good about it, and eventually you're not going to feel good about what you're doing in your job. So again, those are all probably things that you're really familiar with. They're all probably things that you would hope are common sense. And I wish that I could say that most of these things are common sense, but I've been in management for long enough to know that that's not always the case. So hopefully the way that we phrase these things will help you to phrase them to your staff. As far as professionalism when we are in quarantine or when we are telecommuting, there are a few things that we also want to consider. I saw an article where someone was being interviewed on ABC and he was wearing a very nice suit jacket and tie and shorts. Didn't realize that the cameraman was catching his pants or lack of pants as well as his shirt. So we do want to make sure that we are dressed appropriately when we're telecommuting, and making sure that things like, if I'm choosing not to wear dress pants, you can't see that in whatever camera I'm doing. We also want to make sure, if at all possible, that we're in a space where we can have complete and total privacy. It's really difficult for families to feel connected with you if every 15 seconds or so you have a kid coming in, or you can hear screaming, or if you're not fully committed to being present with them. Again, these are things you all are familiar with. We're talking about how can you communicate these things to your staff. The last thing for telecommuting that I feel like is super important is making sure that people are still on time. For me personally, that's a big deal. Being on time is just one of my pet peeves when it doesn't happen. And so I actually do think it's really important that we encourage people to be on time. So that means being on time to meetings. And if you can't be on time, because sometimes things run late, it's about communicating that to someone else so that we're not just sitting around and waiting, because that's a surprisingly irritating thing to happen. I hope that today's discussion was helpful for you as far as just some different ways to phrase expectations in the workplace and how we sort of define professionalism. If you need anything from us, please feel free to contact us at any time. My name is Vicki Sanders, and I hope you have a great day.